Hello students, in the last video we have stopped up to evolution and classification. So that means evolutionary relationships are used for the process of classification. More similarity, they might have been originated from the same ancestors, they will have more common features. So that means they will be grouped under one particular group. Hierarchy already you know, there is a genus, family, order, class, all these things we know. Say for example, suppose if brothers, sisters are there, they are having the same ancestors. So they are more likely to have most of the features in common. Suppose if uncle's son or uncle's daughter, then they will have similarities but not like own siblings or own brothers or own sisters. So that means there will be little bit of more changes are there. Or if you take a clan means mostly related families, many related families will form a clan. In that way, we say that the evolution can be used for the purpose of classification. That is the main idea of this. Next will be, okay, I think we have discussed about classification. Then tracing evolutionary relationship, how it is. Of course, for the classification, we take the evolutionary relationship in a backward time, right? Suppose if you keep on going back, we find that there are less similarities and less similarities we find, and thereby we can identify them with the proper ancestors and proper group. Then the four tools used to study the evolutionary relationship. So different tools are the evidences of evolution we find. So the first evidences will be homologous organs, and the second evidences will be analogous organs. The third will be study of fossils, and nowadays recently they are determining the DNA sequences also will be used to study the evolution, right? Homology and analogy, it is the study of homologous and analogous organs. Let us see what you mean by homologous organs and analogous organs. See, the homologous organs are having common origin, common ancestor, but they perform different functions depending upon the environment they live in, because they adapted to different environmental conditions, but they are originated from the same ancestor. So common ancestor but different function, or common origin and having different functions. Such group of organs are called as homologous organs. You can take the example, say for example, a frog, lizard, bird and human. The four limbs of all these organisms, they are having basic same design, same structure. Say for example, we find this humerus bone, then radius, ulna, then phalanges, carpals, metacarpals, all these things are there which are similar. If you look at the diagram, we find the basic design of bones will be same, but they used for different purposes. Say for example, a turtle will be used it for swimming, an alligator is for poaching, right? Then bird will be used the forelimb for the purpose of flying. Mammals will be used for skillful work or dexterous work, right? But all of them have evolved from a group of common ancestor called lobe-finned fish. Okay, so that means the organs having common origin but performs different functions. They are homologous organs. The four limbs of all these organisms will be considered as homologous organs. Then comes analogous organs. In case of analogous organs, we find that they perform the same functions because they are living in the same environment, but their ancestors or the origin will be different. Say for example, the wing of a bat and the wing of a bird. Okay, so here in case of bat, wing is formed because of the extension of skin between these digits, whereas here the wing is formed because of the bone arrangement and the feathers are there. Even in the same way, we can take the example of plants for the purpose of this homologous and analogous organ. Say for example, in case of plants, we find that the spines are in cactus or a leaf in a common plant, or in some cases we find that is the axillary bud But say for example in case of bougainvillea, right? So here in case of bougainvillea and in case of cactus, the leaf is modified for the purpose of what we say the for the purpose of protection, right? Whereas in common plants like neem plant or mango plant, it is using it for photosynthesis, but the origin is same. Both of all of them are leaf. So here we find the bird feathers are there and it covers the bones and forms the wing, whereas here there is an extension of the skin fold between the fingers and thereby it forms. So this is an example of analogous organs, or you can take even a wing of a bird and wing of an insect. There also we find that the basic structure is different, ancestors are different, but both of them are using for the purpose of flying. Okay. So once again it is the same thing. There is homologous organs, organs which are similar in structure but different in function. The four limbs of amphibians, reptiles, birds and mammals. So that means all the classes of vertebrates we find have the similar structure but having different functions. Right? Frog is used for the jumping or what we say the hopping purpose. Then lizard use it for walking and running. Birds use it for these flying. Mammals used for grasping, walking, running, swimming, etc. So that is the same structures but performing different functions according to their environment. Then we find the analogous organs here. So wing of a bat, wing of the bird and insect wing. Right? Here it is only the extension of the body. It is a invertebrate. Right? There is no bones. But here both of them are having bones. But here the bird is covered with feathers. The bird's wing is covered with feathers, whereas bat wing is covered with the extension of the skin or folding, skin folding, but all of them will perform the same function. That's why they are analogous organs. Analogous organs are different in structure but performs similar functions. Okay. Next evidences will be fossils. What are fossils? Say we have to take about some of the examples of this one also. We say the plants. In case of plants, we find the analogous organs. Their origin is different, but they perform same function. Say for example, tuber of potato and the carrot, right? So there, what we say, one is a root modification, carrot, in which the food will be stored, and the tuber of potato is a stem modification, right? But both are used for the same purpose, for the purpose of storing. Okay, so that means what we can say, they are having different origin but performs the same functions. Coming to the fossils, fossils can be defined as they are the remnants or the remaining parts of the past living organisms, or their even imprints will be considered as the fossils. They are somehow preserved, they have escaped the process of decomposition, and sometimes they may be preserved in the glaciers, that is very ice areas, or they may be preserved in the rocks. Okay, so somehow they are preserved and they give the clue for the process of evolution. Mostly these fossils will act as a connecting link between the past living organisms and the present day organisms. Sometimes we keep on tracing the evolutionary relationship. Somewhere we miss a certain group of organisms. So the identification of the fossils will provide us the clue about the past day organisms and the present day organisms. And when we study the fossils, we find that the older organisms are having simpler structure and the recent organisms are having complex structures. That shows that there is a improvement in the formation of structures, that is from primitive to advanced structures we find. Okay, and they also provide, some of the fossils will have both the characteristics, right? Say for example, Archaeopteryx is one such fossil which is a connecting link between the reptiles and birds. Okay, so that means it is having reptilian characters as well as the bird characters. What are the reptilian characters? Dry scales are there in the Archaeopteryx, right? The body is covered with dry scales, and primitive feathers, very small feathers are there. Then there is a beak, but it is also having jaw with small teeth. Okay, so it is having jaw with teeth, having dry scale, and having the tail-like structure. These are all the reptilian characters. Whereas the bird's character, presence of beak, then the presence of feathers, primitive feathers, and what we say, this warm-blooded animal and all. So that gives the estimation that it is a connecting link between reptiles and the birds. Okay, so that we say that some of the reptiles have evolved into birds, right? So study of fossils are very important to know there is a process of evolution. So here are the certain pictures of different fossils. Say a tree trunk fossil, we can see here. Then there is a fossil called as Nicaea. Okay, then there is a fossil called as trilobite, right? Sorry, this is ammonite, and this is trilobite, and the skull of a dinosaur. So these are all the examples. Even Archaeopteryx you can give. Okay, in case of plants we can give the example Ginkgo is one such fossil plant. Then study of fossils. Now what are fossils? Fossils are the remaining parts of the past living organisms or their imprints. So here we can see the evolution. Here the horse is very short here, that is living about in 50 million years ago. That is Eohippus. Then Mesohippus, slightly the forelimbs and all have increased and the size is also increased. Then Melchippus, you can see here, even the what we say, the toes and all will be changed here. Then Pleohippus, 5 million years ago, you can see the structure of the limbs, particularly the forelimbs. Then Equus, that is the modern horse, we find this structure. So gradually the digits and all have been reduced to form these toes. Okay, you can find that. Then how the fossil formation takes place? Fossil formation takes place due to the formation of sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks are formed by the deposition of soil and rocky materials layer by layer. So as the layer by layer deposition starts, then whatever the organisms that were living at that particular time is going to be washed away and some of them will be preserved. Say for example, you can see here there is a fish and there is what we say, the layer of soil has been washed away from somewhere else and it has formed, and this particular fish was trapped here and more layer of soil is deposited. Now you can see here one layer, two layer, three layer. Suppose here it is one layer, now the second layer, like that. Then it has become like that, and over this also there is a one more layer. That means this particular fish is being entrapped in this particular layer. So if you know the age of this layer, we can also calculate the age of this particular fossil. Here also you can see that gradually this has become fossil. Many type of organisms, they become fossils or they are trapped in the sedimentary rocks. So sedimentary rocks are more likely to have the fossils because it is the process of sedimentation that forms this. So that means the layers are not going to form at a time. Over a period of time, the different layers are going to be formed. Okay. Now this is a picture showing the different sediments, right? Sediments. So when we dig this particular rocks, when we cut these rocks, there are chances that there may be many organisms that might have been trapped or their even imprints may be present in that. In that case, we know that this is the layer that is formed long ago compared to the higher layers or the recent layers. So these are all the recent layers. The top one will be very recent. So that means the organism that is found in the bottom of the sedimentary rocks or the layer of the sedimentary rocks will be older and this one will be younger because this has formed very early. That means it is carrying all the organisms at that time which are present. So that means when you cut open a particular sediment and the fossils which are found at the bottom will be generally older and the one which is found at the top of the layers will be younger fossil. Okay, then there is a method of finding the age of the fossils, right? So that is what is called as carbon 14. Carbon 14, an isotope of carbon. Of course, you have studied about carbon. The normal carbon is the C12 carbon. C13 is a rare carbon and C14 is a radioactive carbon. It is a radioactive carbon. All these forms are present. See, when a plant absorbs the carbon dioxide, some amount of this radioactive carbon also incorporated into the plants. Okay, and when these animals will eat this particular plant, that radioactive carbon also move into the particular at that time whatever the animals are there. So when they ingest these plants, that C14 also will move into the animal body. And being an isotopes or a radioactive isotopes, it will keep on degrading and the radioactivity will keep on reduced to half of it and 25% of it and then 20. So this period of disintegration of a radioactive element is called as its half-life period. Say for example, this particular animal died. At that time, the C14 level will be what we say 100%. Gradually, it will reduce to the 50% of this C14. It is taking about 5,730 years. Then when this 50% will become 25 years, it will become 11,460 years. It is doubled. Then if it is still reduced to half, that is 12.5%, so it will take about 17,190 years. So by estimating the amount of carbon dioxide that is present in that particular fossil, we can calculate the age of the fossil. So such method is called as a carbon dating method. Okay. So another evidence will be embryological evidences. We know that embryological evidences are the one that during the development of an embryo, we find the stages will be similar. Say for example, if you take different classes of vertebrates like the reptiles or this what we say the amphibians or some of the animals like pig or human beings, if you take the initial stages, we are not able to distinguish properly between the embryos. So even for example, you know that in animals or in plants, so the first cell of life will be zygote. So all will start the life with zygote. What does it mean? It means that all the plants and animals are evolved from a common ancestor. So since they are following the same group of same developmental pattern, we can say that they are closely related and they might have been originated from the same ancestor. That is what we can say. Even we can take cytological evidences. Cytological evidences, we know that even though there are many thousands of plant species are there, but there all the cells will have same structure and same components. That means cell wall, plasma membrane, cytoplasm, this mitochondria, all these things will be same. That means even though there are many number of species are there, but they have been having the cell structure that indicates that the organisms, the plants might have been having the common origin or originated from a common ancestor. Even if you take the animal cell, there are thousands of animal species are there, but their cell structure will be same. That is, it is having plasma membrane, cytoplasm and other cellular components what you have studied. Or even molecular evidences. Molecular evidences, if you study the cell, components of cell, the plants and animals will show the same amino acids and the same proteins are there irrespective of their divisions and all. Okay, so that means the molecules which are produced by the plants as well as animals will be having the same type. That means, say for example, all are having nucleus, DNA is a genetic material. All these molecular evidences will also shows that once upon a time all the animals have been evolved from a common ancestor. So there must be an evolution. Then Evolution should not be equated with progress. Evolution is just a biological process. We cannot say that the recent organisms are more brilliant or more progressed compared to the older organisms. It is not, but the only thing we can say that in most of the cases the recent organisms are selected by nature, and that's why we are surviving. Say for example, the dinosaurs have been just simply destroyed or vanished and simply disappeared from the earth. Why? Because they could not adapt. When the changing environment was there, they did not have that particular variations among themselves, and thereby they have simply disappeared, right? But nowadays we say that many people will say that man is the pinnacle of evolution. We are the what we say, the at the top of the evolution. It is not so. We are one of the species in the biological world, right? So suppose for example, if tomorrow the temperature reaches for about 80 degree, all of a sudden, then all of us will die. We are not able to, what we say, survive. Suppose if there is no air condition and all, so in a natural method we are going to die, or we don't get any of these particular fresh water for drinking. Everywhere there is a salt water, we are not able to survive. But whereas the bacteria can survive, bacteria which is considered to be a very old organism, very primitive, the structure is very simple, and even we say that the nucleus is also not complete in that, but they can survive. That means what we say, evolution has not resulted in progress. There is no question of progress or degress, nothing. Evolution has resulted in the variation, formation of a several complex species, from simpler species to complex species, due to variation, genetic drift, natural selection. This does not mean that one species get eliminated when new species are formed. It does not mean that one species, the one which has given rise to the other species, will be eliminated. If that is the case, we would have been having only one species, that is the only human beings, right? No monkeys, no chimpanzees, no giraffes, no tigers, no cats. It is not like that. So that means evolution is better, we say that it is not a linear evolution. Evolution is a branched evolution. So that means from a particular ancestor there is a different species will be evolved, and if they could get selected, if they are having the suitable variations, they can survive, right? Then species get eliminated only if they are not able to adapt to the change in the environment. They are going to be eliminated. Several species which could adapt to the changes in the environment still continue to survive. For example, the we say that the bacteria and all can even survive, and I think you might have nowadays there is a lot of COVID news is there. That means a simple virus which is made up of only two chemicals, that is the nucleic acid and the protein coat, okay, that can survive, and it is evolving. We are not able to find the proper treatment because it is mutating, it is keep on changing, right? So that means what happens, if it could survive or it could adapt to the human environment, human body environment, it can survive. So evolution cannot be equated with progress. If that is the case, just by looking at the virus, we would have been killed that if the human beings are so powerful. It is not, because we are killed by the viruses because they are able to adapt better. Then human evolution, Homo sapiens. So humans have been evolved or been originated from the Africa. Okay, we say that different races are there, white and brown and black, Mongolian race and all these things. But all the human beings are evolved in Africa, and some they stayed there, they become African, and they migrated to Asia, Europe, and they move forth and back, and thereby there is a mixing of these human beings. So totally human beings are one species, because still we are able to breed among ourselves, so we are not separate. And another thing is, generally while talking about evolution, we say that man to monkey. So that means man is descended from monkey, but it is not actually correct. That is, man, monkey, chimpanzees, gorillas might have been evolved from a common ancestor. So we are relatives, but not descended from the monkeys. That is another thing. So you can see that the evolution of man, there are different types of man. So nearly all experts agree that that 3 foot tall chimpanzee Lucy. Then Heidelberg man. So then you can see that the posture is not upright. Then Nebraska man, Piltdown man, Peking man, then Neanderthal man, New Guinea man, Cro-Magnon man, and modern man. So there are so many other explanations also there. Australopithecus, Ramapithecus, then Dryopithecus. So such type of what we say different stages are there. Now modern man, Homo sapien has evolved. So there are different stages are there. Okay. I hope I could convey whatever I could convey and you understood. Thank you very much.